A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Madhushka Balasuriya.
I'm Sonali Manikabadugay. Here's a look at tonight's headlines.
Changes in weather patterns affect many parts of the country. 50,000 hectares of paddy land destroyed due to scarcity of water. JVP leader alleges that the rule of law has collapsed as perpetrators are being protected. Europe and the Americas to the FIFA final as Germany prepares to take on Argentina for the gold trophy.
On to the news in detail. Changes in weather patterns that are being reported from around the island are having an adverse impact on the livelihoods of the public. While some areas are experiencing heavy rains, others are experiencing drought conditions.
Ampara Zonal Irrigation Engineer A.T. Thuduwage stated that due to the lack of rains, the water level of the Senanayaka Samudra has dropped. The water levels of the Sagama River have also been gradually decreasing. The engineer warns that this could affect the water supply to several villages in the Tirukovil Divisional Secretariat area. The extreme weather conditions also caused the Sippikulama River in the Hambantota district to virtually dry up. The water levels of the Julgamo River and the new Julgamo River reduced due to the water levels of the Bandagiriya tank decreasing.
We will face a situation where we won't have water to drink.
The Pathok River, Migas River and Kunkuna River located in the Polonnaruwa district have also dried up. Residents of a number of areas including Nikahena, Pathok River, Migas River and Kandurugas River have been severely affected by the dry weather.
The water levels of the Batalaguda Reservoir in the Kurunagli district has reduced. The water levels of the Kaudula tank in Polonnaruwa and the Kantale tank in the Trincomalee district have also reduced. This weather could harm cultivations in the Trincomalee, Ampara, Monaragala as well as Hambantota districts. Make optimum use of the water you receive. Conserve the water in the tanks. If these conditions persist, this could lead to a drinking water crisis.
Taking
into consideration the changes in weather patterns, funds have been allocated to provide drinking water and all other necessities to the Disaster Management Centre. Steps are being taken to send water tanks to affected areas. The disaster management centres in the districts are ready to provide relief.
Rainy weather conditions experienced in Hatton since last night has hampered day-to-day activities of the public. The weather conditions also caused the collapse of a tree onto the Hatton-Nura Elia main road in the Kotagala area. Meanwhile, a gale force wind that blew through the Pallemulla area in Panadura damaged 8 houses. A special team has been deployed to look into the damages caused due to this strong gust of wind.
Moving into another one of our headline-making stories, the Ministry of Agriculture notes that 50,000 hectares of paddy lands which were cultivated in the Yalla season have been destroyed due to a lack of water. Secretary to the Ministry, RMDB Migas Mulla, said that as a result, only 40% of farmlands were able to reap a harvest this season.
Our correspondent stated that many farmlands in Polonnaruwa, Ampara, Monaragala and Hambantota districts are being affected due to the drought.
I am in close proximity to the Bandagiriya tank in Hambantota, which feeds hundreds of hectares of paddy fields that are now severely affected. Due to the dry weather condition, the water in the tanks are now at a low level. The tank is now only capable of providing water to a limited number of paddy lands. We weren't able to obtain a bountiful harvest last season. We cultivated in the Yalla season, but this situation arose because of the water level of the tank. We are left destitute because we had to take loans and we aren't able to pay the bank back. I cultivated on 6 acres of land and this is all I was able to harvest.
Meanwhile, the Department of Census and Statistics notes that the paddy harvest in February and March dropped by 15.7%. Only 80% of paddy land was used for rice production in the Yala season compared to the Maha season, in which all paddy lands were used for rice production. During the beginning of the season, the Department of Irrigation announced that water can only be distributed to 60% of paddy lands. The destruction of these paddy lands have taken place in a backdrop where government paddy reserves, which are maintained to combat a dearth of paddy, has dropped drastically. Measures have been taken to import rice both by the state and the private sector. An individual suffered injuries when the firearm of a police constable discharged by accident within the Mirigama police station. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana noted that the incident had taken place when the constable was checking the weapon's ammunition.
According to the police, an individual suffered minor injuries when a bullet from a revolver, which discharged by accident, ricocheted off a wall and struck the victim's leg. The injured victim has been admitted to the Watupitiwala hospital. The individual had been detained at the police station in connection to a motor accident. A bicycle came and knocked my three-wheeler. The police took both the bike and the three-wheeler to the police station. I spent the night at the police station. I was taken out to be taken to court. I was told to wait for 10 minutes in that chair. I suddenly heard a loud sound and felt my leg go numb. I don't know how the shot was fired. I just heard the gunfire. Investigations into the incident are continuing.
Meanwhile, police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana says that a police inspector has been identified in connection to an alleged assault on a youth from Panadura by the Miriana police. However, the spokesperson stated that more evidence is needed according to the law to identify him clearly, noting that the police are working on this. Now, on numerous instances, police media spokesperson has assured the public that investigations will be carried out and that perpetrators will be brought to justice. So what has been the fate of these investigations into allegations against the police?
The police media spokesperson stated that investigations will be carried out and necessary action will be taken against officers of the Hungama and Agunakola Palassa police station who refused to accept a complaint regarding an assault in Hungama. He made a similar statement when a woman died during a raid conducted by the Minuwangara police. The raid was conducted to apprehend a suspect. Similar views were also expressed following an incident where a policeman discharged his weapon at an individual who allegedly did not stop when hailed by the police. Secretary to the National Police Commission, Attorney at Law TMKB Tennakun stated that as at 30th June this year, the Commission had received 339 written complaints about the police. 145 were the complaints charged that the police was lethargic, 86 were in relation to the police being partisan, and 67 complaints regarding the misuse of power. Tennakun stated that 227 of these complaints have already been taken up for consideration and concluded. The National Police Commission received 414 complaints against the Sri Lanka police in 2013.
When we receive a complaint against a police officer or the police service, we don't attempt to clean it up. We investigate it. That is why we have been appointed. All officers appointed to the provincial officers as well as in the Colombo and Kalatura district are civil officers. We don't involve the police in this.
The Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission had received 531 complaints against the police over the past 6 months.
When officers commit mistakes or are suspected of being involved in acts of wrong, certain individuals make statements that disciplinary action will be conducted expeditiously. On most occasions, the people expect that this would happen. During the recent past, we have seen only a very few instances where action has been taken against police officers. The delay in the police acting on these complaints or the reluctance of the police to act in this manner could lead to the public losing faith in the police force.
Superintendent of Police for Kalutara, Roshan Silva, has been transferred to the Colombo Crimes Division. Kitsire Kodituaku will replace SP Silva as the new SSP for Kalutara. The Colombo Crimes Division, incidentally, has been put in charge of leading the investigation into the deaths that occurred during the recent unrest in Alutkama. Meanwhile, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka has expressed concern that a police officer who was in charge of the area when the unrest occurred has been transferred to the very unit which investigates the unrest.
කළුතර පොලිස් අධිකාරී රොෂාන්
SP of Kalutara Roshan Silva has been transferred to the Colombo Crimes Division. Was this transfer made on an official requirement or was it a punishment?
දඬුවමක් විදියටද
මේකට හේතුව දැන් ඒ
The officer had served in that area for a long time. This transfer was made due to an official requirement. An SSP has been appointed as his replacement.
කරලා තියෙන්නේ ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨ පොලිස් අධිකාරිවරයෙක් ඒ ප්‍රදේශයට පත් කරලා තියෙනවා.
මේ මාරුවීම
Is this transfer related to the recent incidents that took place in Kalutara and Beruwala?
අදාළව සිද්ධ වෙච්ච දෙයක්ද
No, not at all.
දෙයක් නෙමෙයි.
අලුත්ගම සිද්ධියට අදාළ
Allegations were leveled against some officials in connection to the Alutgama incident. Has any action been taken against them?
වෙන විට අරගෙන තියෙනවද
තාම විමර්ශන අවසන්
The investigations are not over. Subsequent to the investigations, if it is proven that they have not carried out their duties, disciplinary action will be taken against them.
විනයානුකූලව ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගැනීමට බලාපොරොත්තු
පොලිස් අධිකාරී රොෂාන් සිල්වා
SP Roshan Silva has been transferred to the CCD. Will he be involved in this investigation?
ඔහුත් නැදිහත් වෙනවද
No, he will not.
මෙම ස්ථානමාරුව සිදු කර තිබෙන්නේ CCD කොළඹ
He has been transferred to the CCD, that is the Colombo Crimes Division. The CCD is investigating the deaths that occurred during the unrest in Alutgama. There is a suspicion that arises with regard to his transfer to the CCD.
විමර්ශනයට ස්ථානමාරුවක් ලබා දීම සැකසහිතයි සැකසයි.
Hello, if you're just joining us, you're watching Primetime News on News First. Chief Minister of the Northwestern Province, Dayasri Jayasekara, joined the Newsline segment on News First today.
වයඹ මහඇමතිතුමා මොකද මේ ගහගන්නේ
මම ගහගන්න කෙනෙක් නෙමෙයි ඒ වගේම
I am not a person who brawls. However, if someone comes to attack me, I am not someone who will back down. Even if such a situation was reported, it was not very serious.
මට ඉතින් ඒ වගේ ලොකු කලබගැනීමක් නම් සිද්ධ වුණේ නැහැ.
දැන් මහඇමතිතුමා කියන්නේ හරිම් ප්‍රාන්දු මන්ත්‍රීතුමාට ගැහුවේ නෑ කියලා. එතමුන් කියන ඔබතුමා එතුමාව හැපුවා කියලා. ඒක ඇත්තද?
මම නම් හරිම් ප්‍රාන්තුමන්තුමා හැපුවේ නැහැ. හැබැයි වෙන කවුරු හරි එතුමාව හපලා ඇති.
I didn't bite MP Harin Fernando. Someone else might have bitten him. He might be trying to put the blame on me. It might be because it is easier for him to explain that I did it when he goes home. He is not someone worth biting.
හරිම් ප්‍රාන්තුමන්තුමා හිතන්නේ ඊට වැඩිය සමහර වෙලාවට කැමති ඇති හපන්න. ඉතින් මම එච්චර කැමැත්තක් නැහැ.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඔබතුමා ගැහුවෙත් නෑ හැපුවෙත් නෑ.
ඒවෙත් නැහැ අපුවෙත් නැහැ.
ඔබතුමාට කිසි තුවාලයක් අපිට පේන්නේ නැහැ. ඔබතුමා මෙතන ඉන්නවා. හැබැයි අපට දැනගන්න ලැබිලා තියෙනවා එතන තුවාල වෙන තරම් රණ්ඩුවක් ගියා කියලා.
ඉතින් මම නම් මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. මම ඒකයි කිව්වේ මම
I am fine. I am continuing with my work. The person who hit me should have gone to parliament. The question is, why didn't he?
ඇයි ආවේ නැත්තේ කියලා තමයි තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ.
අපි නම් අපි තුවාල වුණොත් බේත් ගන්න ගෙදර නවතිනවා නැත්නම් රෝහල් ගත වෙනවා.
ඒක තමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ.
That is what happens usually. I believe that the people will understand what has happened.
ඔව් තේරුම් ගනි මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා අවසන් වශයෙන්.
කියලා ඇත්තට මොකක්ද එමතුමා උනේ?
සාකච්ඡාව ආවේ අපි ඇත්තටම එතන
The topic of debate was the current nature of politics in the country. Various views were brought up. The opposition leveled various allegations at the government. They say that the government is corrupt and that the government imports ethanol and drugs.
ඊළඟට දූෂිත ආණ්ඩුව කියනවා හොරගම් කරපු ආණ්ඩුව කියනවා.
දැන් එහෙම නැද්ද?
නේද මං කියන්නේ.
If they say this, they need to prove these allegations.
පෙන්වන්න ඕනේ සොරන්. ඔහු කතා කරපු වෙලාවේ මං එක විනාඩියක්වත් ඔහුට බාධා කරේ නැහැ. ඊටාම සංයමයෙන් මං අහගෙන හිටියා.
When he was speaking, I listened to him. When it was my turn, I responded to his statements. This is what usually happens. However, when I answered, he made very obscene allegations at me.
මට විවිධ චෝදන අපහාස කරන තැනකට තමයි පත් උනේ. විශේෂයෙන් අයිසේ තමුසේ තමුසේ බලා ගන්නවා තමුසේ මහයමති කියලා මට ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. නපුංසකයා මේවා විවිධ ඔබ බැලුවොත් ඒවා තේරෙනවා. ඉතින් ඇයි මේ රස්තියාදුකාර
I don't understand why he has fallen to this level.
මට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ ඉතින් ඔහුගේ දේශපාලන රස්තියාදුකාර දේශපාලනය වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මම මගේ රස්තියාදුකාර දේශපාලනඥයෙක් නෙමෙයි. මම මේ වචන පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැහැ විවාදයක් ඇතුලේ.
දායසිරි මන්ත්‍රීතුමා තවදුරටත් කියන්නේ මන්ත්‍රීවරු ගහගත්තේ නැහැ කියලා.
මම කියන්නේ අපි ගහගත්තේ නැහැ. මොකද මේ
We didn't fight. There was a strong verbal battle. That's it.
ප්‍රහාරයක් ඇති වුණා මිසක මුස්ලිම් ප්‍රහාරයකට ගියේ නැහැ කියලා තමයි මම කියන්නේ.
ඔබතුමා හොඳට මුස්ලිම් ප්‍රහාර දන්නවා.
අපි කියනවා හරින් ප්‍රනාන්දු මන්ත්‍රීතුමාට දයාසිරි ජයසේකර.
We need to tell MP Harin Fernando that Dayasri Jayasekara, who served as a former UNP parliamentarian, is not indebted to the UNP. Talented people are not allowed to come forward in that party. That is why Dayasri, who came into parliament following an election, gave up his seat and stepped out. He kept his backbone straight and did what he can from within the party. We challenge Harin Fernando. Don't go into television programs and try to show your might. If you are a parliamentarian with a backbone, then resign from parliament and contest for the UA Provincial Council election as the chief ministerial candidate of the UNP. Accept this challenge and come for a television debate. Not only that, if you want something more physical, I am ready for that as well.
විවාදේ නෙවෙයි නම් තව අතින් පයින් ඒවට එන්න ලෑස්ති නම් ඒකටත් එන්න. මම ලෑස්ති ඒකට ඕනම වෙලාවක.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa visited the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic this morning in Kandy and participated in special religious observances.
The President's media unit said that the head of state visited the Malwatu Vihara and called on the chief prelate of the Malwatu sect, Most Venerable Tibbatu Ave Sri Sumangala Thero, and inquired into his well-being. The President also visited the Asgiri Vihara and called on the chief prelate of the Asgiri chapter, Most Venerable Udugama Sri Buddharakita Thera, and engaged in a cordial discussion. President Rajapaksa also spoke to the devotees at the sacred temple of the Tooth Relic.
In news overseas, Australian Minister of Foreign Affairs Julie Bishop says that the Australian government will not comment on the 153 asylum seekers as the matter is now before the law. Bishop made this comment in response to a question raised by an Australian-based radio network.
Well, this is a matter part heard before the court, Chris, and I'm not going to comment on matters that are in the midst of a judicial hearing. That would be entirely inappropriate. Any matter that involves the people smuggling trade is subject to the policies of Operation Sovereign Borders under the command of General Campbell, and part of the success to date has been not to provide with the people smugglers with information that they use to ply their trade.
Meanwhile, here in Sri Lanka, Navy Commander Vice Admiral Jayanta Pereira spoke to Newsfirst in Kandy and shared these thoughts.
Sri Lanka has developed. Even the Prime Minister of Australia stated this recently. That is why 41 people who travelled there will return to the country. They believe that Sri Lanka is secure. They understand that there is no longer reason for people to leave the country. They are not people who left from Sri Lanka. They left from a different country. So we have no concern.
However, when inquired, Deputy Minister of External Affairs Neomar Pereira had a different point of view.
We accepted 41. If they are confirmed to be Sri Lankan, we are ready to accept them.
Meanwhile, 14 asylum seekers at the Christmas Island Detention Centre have been placed on the watch list for self-harm. According to Australian media reports earlier this week, a group of asylum seeker mothers who gave birth to children in Australia threatened to commit suicide in a bid to have their children resettled in Australia. They have been placed under 24-hour surveillance.
No Australian government should be subjected to the spectacle of people saying, unless you accept us, I am going to commit self-harm. And I don't believe any Australian, any thinking Australian, would want us to capitulate to moral blackmail.
The United Arab Emirates has lifted a trade ban on Sri Lankan chicken and eggs entering the UAE market with immediate effect. A blanket ban had previously been imposed on the importation of chicken and eggs from Asian countries, including Sri Lanka, due to notifiable avian influenza or NIA. However, the ban was lifted on Sri Lanka following a presentation made by Sri Lanka to the Animal and Agricultural Affairs Unit of the UAE Ministry of Water and Environment to lift the ban, highlighting that Sri Lanka is now free of avian influenza.
An event was held in Colombo today under the auspices of Navin Dissanayake, Minister of Public Management Reforms.
The new parking garage at DS Senanayake College, Colombo was declared open today by Minister Navin Dissanayake. The parking garage was constructed at a cost of 2 million rupees.
DS Senanayake in a very short span of time, has become one of the leading education institutes in Sri Lanka. Today, when we think of old DS Senanayaka students, they may be doctors, lawyers, engineers, cricketers, but
Switching quickly back into local news, speaking in Parliament, Minister of Higher Education SP Disanayake made the following remarks on the recent incident in Diulapitiya.
දිවුලපිටියේ වෙඩි තැබීම ගැන කතා කරා. සිරස පත්තරේ මේකේ මේ වීඩියෝ එකකුත් දැම්මා.
You spoke of the Diulapitiya incident. Sirasa showed the footage. An individual was stabbed by another. When the police visited the scene, this individual, who was under the influence of alcohol, who had stabbed a person before, had stabbed the police officer. When the individual had tried to stab and kill a police officer, another police officer had shot at him. It is correct. The police requested Sirasa to provide the footage. They asked the person who videoed the footage when he was going on the bus to provide the footage in question. They still have not provided the footage.
අනේ කරුණා කරලා මේ වීඩියෝ එක ගෙනල්ලා දෙන්න. දැන් සිරසේ ගියානේ. ඒ වීඩියෝ එක ඒ කැමරා කරපු මිනිස්සයා බස් එකේ යනකොට අපිට ගෙනල්ලා දෙන්න. තවම ගෙනල්ලා දීලා නැහැ. තවම නේ. ඒක නිසා මේ වගේ දේවල් අල්ලගෙන තමයි ඒක තමයි ප්‍රධාන සාක්ෂි මේ ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ.
Newsfirst provided footage of the incident in Diulapitiya to the Minuwangoda police upon a request made by the police. The footage was provided to the Minuwangoda police a few days after the incident took place on the 23rd of June, which resulted in the death of an individual in police fire. We provided the footage to a police officer identified as MBC Sampath on the 27th of June at 5 p.m. Newsfirst also provided evidence before court on the matter. Meanwhile, JVP leader Anurakumara Disanayake, speaking in Parliament today, said that the recent incidents bear witness that the rule of law in the country had collapsed. The MP made this observation while speaking at the adjournment motion debate.
සැබවින්ම අපේ රට නීතිය සහ විධානයේ ආධිපත්‍ය මුළුමනින්ම අත්හැරුණු.
Our country has completely let go of the rule of law. There is no rule of law in the country today. No one is held accountable. Every citizen, regardless of their social status, needs a country where there is a law and discipline. What is happening today? Today, law is being manipulated based on the whim of one individual. How can gangs roam free with weapons? Recently, I saw footage from Minuwangoda where a police officer was aiming his firearm at a citizen. A civilian had recorded this footage. You might have witnessed the footage when it was aired on Sirasa TV, a private media institution in the country. A corpse was discovered in close proximity to this location. An investigation needs to be conducted on the exact location while the body was lying there. However, the footage showed that the body was being dragged along the road by the police officers and then taken away. I saw the footage on Sirasa TV, a private media institution in the country. If this is a country that protects the law and seeks justice, what should have been done? There is sufficient evidence to identify the police officers via the video footage. The police division in question is known. Yet, what is being done today? Honourable Speaker, today the media institution that aired the footage is being penalised. They are trying to level various charges such as contempt of court in order to find a way to penalise them. Murderers, those who protect murderers, and those who influence them are all dangerous.
ඝාතකයන් රකින්න අය, ඝාතනයන්ට අනුබල දෙන අය විසකුරුයි භයානකයි.
රජයක් පත් කරාට පස්සේ ඒ රජයට පුළුවන්කම තියෙන්නේ වැරදි කරන අය.
When a government is appointed, what that government can do is to identify the perpetrators, punish them or advise them and then direct them to the correct path. The 225 members of the government are not capable of correcting all citizens, amounting to just over 20 million. If the country is moving in the wrong direction, the entire population needs to be held accountable to it. All the seniors must be held responsible. All the politicians need to be held responsible. All the religious leaders and intellectuals need to be held responsible.
සියලු දේශපාලකයන් කියන්න ඕන, සියලු ආගමික නායකයන් කියන්න ඕන, සියලු උගතුන් කියන්න ඕන.
Now quickly switching back into some international news, the new government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India released a budget that it said would revive economic growth after the longest slowdown in a quarter of a century, even while curbing borrowing.
Now, Modi's government, in office for less than 2 months, said it would raise caps on foreign investment in the military and insurance sectors and initiate a tax overhaul to unify India's 29 states into a common market.
This will be Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first major test of his reform credentials amid early doubts about his willingness to make unpopular decisions. The budget is expected to unveil bold reforms in a bid to turn around an economy growing at decade lows, but there won't be major changes to taxes, according to Reuters survey. Foreign banks watching India have played up expectations of strong action on tax reforms, privatization and subsidy cuts after the young government's drumbeats in recent weeks.
As Finance Minister, I am bound to usher in a policy regime that will result in a desired macroeconomic outcome of higher growth, lower inflation, sustained level of external balance and prudent policy stance. We shall leave no stone unturned in creating a vibrant and strong India. The prevailing economic situation presents a great challenge. The target of 4.1% fiscal deficit is indeed daunting. Difficult as it may appear, I have decided to accept this target as a challenge. One fails only when one stops trying.
Our bureau correspondent from India, Sarmista Sarkar, now joins us over the phone with an update on the budget that was presented earlier today.
This was the first budget under the new Modi government. People were really skeptical. They were really looking forward to this budget. Many analysts are of the opinion that previously to big-ticket events, that those are the economic survey and the railway budget, failed to impress the markets, and for that reason the expectations were more. In this context, it should also be mentioned that the BSE Sensex has plunged 518 points so far in this week in the run-up to the budget, as of the data collected till 9th of July. So far, the budget is quite promising. People were hoping that it's going to be very conducive for the middle class, and as of now, what we can see, the reactions have just started coming in. People are more or less happy. The general people are having a positive idea about this budget. So, Mr. Sarkar, India.
Well, on that note, we wrap up tonight's edition of Prime Time News. If you missed out on any of the stories we just aired, you can log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Sonali Manigabadake.
And I'm Madhushka Balasuriya. Thanks for stopping by. Good night.